Hello and welcome back to another episode of this week's watches, and this week we have 12 incredible watches for you guys and girls, ranging from two beautiful vintage watches that have just come back from service to some great modern watches to some like new watches, and something a bit different with two Louis Vuittons as well. So definitely switching it up this week, so hopefully there'll be something that piques your interest. I'm sure there will be. As always, don't forget, if you want to skip all my rambling, down in the description there is all 12 watches listed with a link to the website and a timestamp, so you can go directly to that part of the video to see me talk and show that specific watch. Now I know we're only in November and talking about Christmas seems a bit mad, but obviously running a business and wanting to have a bit of time off around Christmas, I've got to start preparing what's going to happen. So I'm looking at dates and I'm starting to figure out what I'm going to be doing and when I'm going to be closed. So I'll announce that as and when that time comes, but just get ahead. You know, I know a lot of people are considering gifts for Christmas. Watches are definitely one of those things. Get it whilst you can, so that way delivery is guaranteed, especially international. Please do not leave it till December, because there are many delays that can happen even in December. So some of the final dates listed for delivery via DHL aren't always the case, because customs can take their time and so on and so on. So international, get on it right away and try and get it ordered within November. Within the UK, of course, you have a bit of leeway, but just be warned, you know, usually things pick up over Christmas compared to like a normal trading period, and we're expecting the same this year, so get ahead whilst you can. Now, before we dive onto the watches on the table, I am wearing, and we're going to show as always, my Studio Underdog Watermelon. This is a very special watch for me and my wife. We bought it during a special time, and it actually has a custom case back thanks to Richard over at Studio Underdog, commemorating that important moment in our lives as well. So quite an emotional watch for us both, and something that obviously will not be for sale, and it will be enjoyed in its entirety. And I've got it paired on a strap tailor green suede, which I think suits the watch perfectly with the tones of green. It's definitely a fun watch, even during winter. It's definitely more of a summer watch in my opinion, but we're getting on to colder weather, a little bit darker, and I still think it looks fantastic. So now that all of that is out of the way, we're going to start with, arguably in my opinion, the most special watch on the table, and it comes with a fantastic story of me buying it from the original family, and that is a gorgeous Amiga Speedmaster. It does come with its box and paperwork as well, and it's fresh from service. So let's take a closer look. So here we go, starting off this week with an absolutely gorgeous Amiga Speedmaster Professional. This is the reference 145.022, and this one dates to September 1985 with its original box, paperwork and receipt. It comes paired on its original bracelet, which is a full length and hasn't been sized, and the dial, handset, everything about this watch, the bezel, the finishing is all original. It hasn't been polished, and we even have a photo of the case back which features the red seal, and that red seal breaks basically once you open the watch. It's what they used to do to try and show if someone had got in, to be able to void the warranty and so on and so on. And we were basically the first people to ever open this watch and see the movement inside. It had never been serviced or anything like that, so we had it fully serviced and cleaned, light polished to the crystal, and here it is in all of its glory. As I say, box and paperwork. Now, out of respect to the original family, I will only talk briefly about the story. I won't go obviously into too much detail, but the original family reached out. It was the daughter of the father who bought the watch in 1985, and unfortunately he had passed away, and she was instructed by her mother to try and sell this watch, which was the wishes of her father for it to be sold when he passed. And apparently in 1985, when he bought the watch, he bought it with the intention of it being an investment, even back then, which I find amazing. And I was speaking to a collector recently about that, and you know, he was saying, well, why wouldn't they have recommended a Rolex or something else? Obviously, without being there, we can never know for certain, but I can only imagine, obviously 1969, we land on the moon, and this is 1985 when he goes in and buys this watch. 1980s was still very much the sort of heat and height of space exploration, right? Like, we were still dreaming to the stars, and we really believed at that time, by the 2000s or even 2010s, we would be, you know, doing a lot more in space than we are obviously now. So I could imagine the importance of a watch like this in that era as being the watch that the astronauts wore the first time they went to the moon, and obviously we see how important that narrative is still today, so you can imagine in 1985 it was probably more so, and even more of an impactful story. So I can see how it would have been sold as such. But anyway, an interesting story nonetheless. We purchased it from from them, and that money went towards her mother being able to go back home to her home country and see her family once again, which is really nice, and she's going to be able to stay there for an extended period of time thanks to the price we paid for this watch. And you'll see what we're asking for it. It's incredibly fair considering the fact it's one owner, full box papers and fresh from service, never polished, and we paid a very fair price as well, which is always what I aim to do, and it's always, in my opinion, nice to know that when it comes from an original owner. So inside is a manually wound Amiga Calibre 861, as I say, September 1985, box papers, original condition, not polished in terms of the case. We did, as I say, lightly polish the crystal just to remove any scratches and to be able to see that beautiful original tritium dial more clearly, original pushers and crown as well. Just a wonderful example, and you'll be hard pressed to find a better one that is also original family with its box and papers. That's enough of the rambling. I hope I did the story justice, and I hope you enjoyed it, and let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, as you can see. Now obviously it goes without saying, it wears beautifully. The Speedmaster always does, in my opinion. This is 42mm by 48.5mm lug to lug, 13.5mm thick and 20mm on the lugs, so endless options for swapping this out onto a leather strap. You do have the bracelet, but to be honest, for me, these look amazing and best on leather. So go check it out on the website today. So starting off at the very top with such a special piece, we're going to move on to this gorgeous and equally special in terms of design and history and everything like that. A beautiful 1970 Breitling Navitimer 806 with the Venus 178 inside. Again, fresh from service. Let's take a closer look. Another beautiful vintage watch, fresh from service. Unfortunately, not the same kind of story as the Amiga we just looked at, but just as beautiful of a watch in my opinion. This is the Breitling Navitimer. This one specifically from circa 1970, and it's the reference 806, which is one of the most iconic, in my opinion anyway, one of the most iconic Navitimer references. You have the beautiful slide rule bezel beneath the crystal, which obviously the Breitling Navitimer is famous for. The beautiful contrasting white subdials against the black dial, which is a gorgeous glossy dial, and you can see the original loom as well, very present and very, very attractive. Just a nice example, and I'm always looking out for nice, clean, vintage Breitlings, but they just don't come up that often because they were truly used as tools back then. Nice Breitling sign crown and pump pushers, and to be honest, a very nice case. You know, really, really sharp. You can still see all of the angles there. And as we flip it over, the plain snap-on case back with the inscriptions there, with the serial reference Breitling and everything else you'd expect as well. And behind here is a manually wound Venus Calibre 178, which, as I say, is fresh from service. Got it paired on just a nice black alligator style strap, which I think suits the watch perfectly, but obviously you could really swap it out for anything. But let's show this watch on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. It wears beautifully, and if you're considering a Breitling Navitimer, I would really seriously consider a vintage before a modern. Nothing against the modern. I have sold and usually have in stock modern Breitling Navitimers. I just think vintage is far more better priced, that's without a doubt, and also far more charm. You know, there's just a lot of charm that goes into vintage. Yes, you have to be a bit more careful with it, so if it would be your everyday watch, then yeah, maybe go modern. But if you're wanting something with character and sort of everything else that comes with vintage, just bite the bullet, go for vintage. 40.5mm by 48.5mm lug to lug, only 13mm thick and 22mm on the lugs, so a little larger, but that goes with the overall design. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to an awesome Grand Seiko. If you like Grand Seikos, you probably like their special dials they do. This is definitely up there. This is the green Birch Hibe 40mm. Let's take a closer look. Now on to Grand Seiko with this gorgeous Grand Seiko Hibe automatic green Birch, as it's called, which features that gorgeous textured green dial. A lot of you will have seen like the white Birch and other models as well. It's the same dial technique and texture, just in green, and it's really, really gorgeous because in some lights it really does go to a black dark green, and other lights it pops as this vibrant green, and in usual light, just, you know, every day, is this nice subtle green, which I personally like. So I'm not a massive green fan, even though I'm obviously wearing today a very green watch, but it also has red and so on and so on. But the green, I think, is very, very attractive and nicely done. This is the reference SLG 011 SLGH011G, sorry. And as we flip it over, behind this exhibition case back is a beautifully finished automatic Grand Seiko Hibe Calibre 9SA5. Grand Seiko is really pushing the boundaries with their automatic movements and obviously a spring drive, quartz and so on, but they are really doing finishing to a very high standard, and I would say easily rivaling a lot of the Swiss manufacturers. Not in terms of, just in terms of finishing, but also in terms of architecture and build quality and everything like that. This model features a screw-down crown. It's from December 2022 with its full box and paperwork. It comes with all of its links as well, and it is in worn condition, but overall very fair. You can still see the sticker on the case back as well. You can't go wrong with this one. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably paired on my 7-inch wrist. I love this reference in this model and the case because it has more of a heft than the typical Grand Seikos. It's not too big, it's not too thick, and it's not too, obtrusive on the wrist, but it definitely has more of a presence, which I really like. So this is 40mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, only 12mm thick and 22mm on the lugs with drilled lug holes to make strap changing nice and easy. But to be honest, in my opinion, it looks at home on the bracelet. So go check out this gorgeous watch on the website today. From there over to a Glashütte original SeaQ black 39.5mm on the bracelet, which has a great internal adjustment for the bracelet. We'll show that closer up as well, but a really gorgeous watch. Let's take a closer look. Now on to Glashütte original. This is the SeaQ black diver in 39.5mm on its brushed and polished bracelet. It looks absolutely incredible. I've sold this model before, and interestingly, we had sold this watch. That gentleman had enjoyed it for a while and then decided to sell it on himself, and we have now got it back from the person he sold it to. So this is the same watch we sold before, which is really great to sort of have it background on the loop too, as it happens occasionally, but not very often. What you see right there is this gorgeous faux patina, a glossy black dial and glossy black bezel, really nice domed crystal, which adds this vintage charm to the watch, which is what this model was all about. You have a brushed and polished bracelet, so some of the polished areas will obviously have scratches from wear. We can have it refinished for you on request. Personally, I always recommend, getting a watch first, seeing what you think of it condition-wise, and compare it to your own watches. Because often people will look at photos of a watch they're buying and go, oh, that's got some scratches. And then if you look at your own watches in your own collection, you'll probably see most of them are of the same condition, in some cases maybe even worse. So therefore, buy the watch, enjoy it, and then polish it at a later point if you so wish. Now in the intro I mentioned the bracelet has this really great hidden clasp adjustment, so on the fly adjustment. The logo right there, the polished logo, is actually a button, and if you see underneath there's a ratchet system, so you can ratchet it in if it's out without having to push the button, but then to get it out, as you can see it doesn't move, you push the button and you can slide it out as much as you want. So you have on-the-fly adjustment hidden within the clasp, which means you can actually do it whilst on your wrist, which is very, very cool. Nice engraved case back right there. I won't bore you with the reference to this watch. It's a very long reference. You can see it on the website. But inside is an automatic Glashütte Calibre 39-11, and this model is from October 2019 with its complete box and papers and spare links, as you'd expect. As I say, ask if you want to have it polished. We can get that done for you, an additional cost and time frame to delivery, but personally I wouldn't recommend it. Just wear the watch, you're going to put scratches into it anyway. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This is where this watch really shines. They got the proportions perfect at 39.5mm by 47mm lug to lug, 12mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lug. So endless option. It would look great on like a black canvas strap as well, but to be honest, the bracelet is super comfortable and super nice. So go check this watch out on the website today. Now on to a 2021 Amiga Seamaster Tokyo 2020 Olympics, which for those of you that know, obviously the Olympics didn't happen in 2020, but this has that on there, and COVID happened, so it's kind of a misprint, I guess. And in the history of watches, I think this is going to be quite an interesting one in 20-30 years that a lot of people are going to be like, huh, that's interesting. But anyway, let's take a closer look. Now on to the awesome Amiga Seamaster 2020 Tokyo Olympics edition with the gorgeous white dial and the vibrant blue on the bezel, which is matched by the surrounds and the hands on the dial. It's a really nice contrast, and just as a watch in general, it is very, very attractive. Now obviously you have the connection with the Tokyo Olympics. I really like these models where they have the collaboration, but the collaboration is hidden. So you can't, without looking at it, you wouldn't really know it's a special edition for something. It's not like they've put Tokyo or the rings on the dial, which they've done in the past. I like it when it's a more subtle thing, because you can like the design, and to be honest, like the Tokyo, like Olympics in general, I might watch, but I'm not, you know, crazy about it. I don't want specifically a watch that represents that personally. So having one that represents it in a hidden fashion, I think is far nicer, because then you open up the market to everyone who likes the watch and also the people who are buying it because of the Olympics. So there you go. You can see the symbol on the back. And again, as I mentioned in the intro to this one, it's quite interesting really, because it's obviously stating Tokyo Olympics 2020, but the Olympics didn't happen until 2021 because of COVID. So this is kind of one of those interesting pieces of history in the watch world where it represents something that didn't quite happen and go to plan, and something that's going to be spoken about pretty much forever in terms of COVID and the impacts and the way it was handled. And, you know, it's going to be taught in schools. Like when my daughter grows up, that's something she's probably going to come home with an assignment to ask us about how it went, right? I think that's really interesting. But anyway, so that's a little side point on the watch. Really gorgeous design. As always, I won't bore you with the reference. Amiga make a very long reference. You can see it on the website. But behind that case back is an automatic Amiga coaxial Calibre 8800. And the watch is from June 2021 with its box and paperwork and spare links. As you can see, it is in worn condition. There are scratches. We can have it refinished for you on request as always. So that's completely up to you. Do see the additional photos on the website if you want to have a closer look as well. Obviously, you can book an appointment and come see it in person if you're able to. Now, the watch has a really great hidden push feature on the underneath for the clasp. Hopefully, you can see that. It's very hard to get this camera in action, so that allows you to adjust on the fly via that push. To get, you know, perfect fits, or adjust during winter and summer and so on. And the watch does feature half and full links again to help with that perfect fit. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, as you can see. So this is 42mm by 50mm lug to lug, 13.5mm thick and 20mm on the lug. So those might sound like quite large proportions, but as you can see, it wears really well. It wears compact on the wrist, and it really does hug the wrist. And I've seen people with far smaller wrists than me wear these 42mm comfortably. So give it a try and see if it's for you, but go check it out on the website today. From there over to another favorite on the table for me, that's this gorgeous Zenith El Primero A384 Revival 37mm 50th anniversary. A really, really gorgeous example, and the dial is just mesmerizing. So let's take a closer look. Now on to one, as I said in the intro, a favorite of mine. This is a gorgeous Zenith El Primero, part of the A384 Revival family in 37mm. This specifically is the 50th anniversary edition, which features that gorgeous white dial, vintage type font, and a vibrant red second hand, which just contrasts so nicely, especially with the black ring around the outside as well. Very monochromatic with that pop, but it just works so beautifully. And you have the classic 384 case, which just looks incredible. Really, really nice example, this one. Fantastic condition as well. I won't bore you with the reference, super long reference, go see it on the website. But as we flip it over, you're presented with an exhibition case back with that iconic, or now iconic, El Primero rotor right there. And that is the automatic Zenith El Primero Calibre 400, a iconic movement used by them for a very long time now. Comes paired on its original strap with its original buckle, again in equally fantastic condition. I think you're going to struggle finding a better one unless it's completely sealed as brand new. This one's from June 2020, and it does come with a generic Zenith box and its paperwork. This came with a special box. Unfortunately, that's not present. The person who bought this actually bought it from an auction house, and it didn't come with that box either. So at some point along the way, I suspect at retail when it was originally sold, I suspect the sales rep just grabbed a generic box, not knowing it came with a special one, and the person originally buying it maybe didn't know either, because working retail back in the day, I can tell you that happened very often, unfortunately. So it can happen. But anyway, that's all the details on this one. Let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Beautiful and perfect proportions. Now, some people surprisingly will think 37 sounds too small. Do be warned, it does wear bigger than that because it's a tonneau case, so the case is quite long in comparison to just the case size. So it's 37mm by 47mm lug to lug, 12.5mm thick and 20mm on the lug, so you can swap this strap out nice and easy. But to be honest, that contrast works perfectly. So go check this one out on the website today. From there over to the now discontinued Fiz Brunswick Blue 38mm manually wound, not the new 40mm automatic. This is the older generation, and in my opinion, the nicer one, but that's just my opinion. A really, really gorgeous example. So let's take a closer look. Next up, the Fiz Brunswick Blue in 38mm manually wound and discontinued. Arguably, or at least in my opinion, this is one of my favorite Brunswicks. Now, the Brunswick Brown was my favorite, a watch I owned personally, and I do regret selling it every now and again, but as always, well, not as always, but needs must every now and again, running your own small business, you can't keep everything. And the blue is definitely second on my list of personal favorites. The galvanic tone, or two-tone I should say, of the blue is mesmerizing. The applied numerals contrast beautifully against the light, and I like the subdial. I think it works with the overall design, and the 38mm for me is perfect. The 40mm I find a little on the large sides for my wrist, personally, with the cushion case. As we flip it over, this is the older exhibition caseback model, so you can see that movement. That's a manually wound ETA 7001, and it comes paired on a regular length. They do different length, but this is a regular length Bristol blue leather strap, which suits the watch perfectly. But to be honest, a nice brown or tan strap really goes with the design surprisingly well. Nice onion crown right there as well. This one's from July 2021 with its box and paperwork. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This is where the Fiz Brunswick has always been so incredible in my opinion, just how comfortable it is on the wrist and how perfect those proportions are. So this is 38mm by 43mm lug to lug, 11.5mm thick and 20mm on the lug, so endless options for swapping this one out. As I say, brown looks fantastic. So go check this one out on the website today. Now on to a beautiful JLC R Verso. This is the Grand Thai edition manually wound, arguably one of the classics, and can still be had at a great price considering the retail price on JLCs have gone mental recently. Pre-owned, there's still some fantastic deals. So let's take a closer look at that. Now on to a JLC R Verso manually wound Grand Thai model with that gorgeous silver dial. This definitely is up there for me in terms of just great rectangular watches. Obviously the Cartier Tank is up there too, but the R Verso and specifically this model I think are fantastic. They've done a really good job at keeping those proportions really nice without going too large. Personally, I'm very comfortable wearing a smaller model as well, but this I think is the sweet spot for most people. And larger, whilst great, I think it looks a bit too big on most people, to be honest with you. I think this is the one that they need to get. But anyway, this is the reference 270.8.62, and it's from circa 2010s, and it does come with a box. Unfortunately, no paperwork. It does come on its ostrich strap with its deployment buckle, as well as you can see where it sits in there. I'm not a huge fan of these, so personally, I would be putting it on maybe a different strap with just a normal pin buckle and keeping this in the box, but that's just me personally. You've got the option there, and these are not cheap, so it's nice to have. You can see the case back there as well, and let's show how the reversing function works. So you push it out and you slide it along, and then you push it back down and clip it in, and all is there, as you can see. Now it is a fingerprint magnet because that is just polished, there's no engraving. You can have it engraved if you so wish. You know, just keep in mind if you ever do want to sell it, you're probably going to have to get that engraving removed. Inside this is a manually wound JLC Calibre 822. We can have it fully polished for you if you wish, including the buckle. Personally, I don't think it needs it. I kind of like them with a bit of wear. And as I say, I'd be swapping out the strap, not because there's anything wrong with this strap. I think it's actually a gorgeous strap. I just don't get on with these on my wrist size personally. So do keep that in mind. If you get it, if you ever get a watch that has one of these and you're not finding it particularly comfortable, try a different strap with just a normal pin buckle, because it might actually save the watch for you. I've had situations like that myself, and I know many customers have as well. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now, as I say, I'm very comfortable wearing the smaller case as well, but I think for most people this is the absolute sweet spot, and I think it probably looks better on my wrist as well. So this is 26mm by 42mm lug to lug, 9.5mm thick and 20mm on the lug, so endless options, but a really gorgeous watch and one seriously worth considering if you're after a nice dressy piece. So go check it out on the website today. Now on to a TAG Heuer Carrera Calibre 6. This is the automatic on the strap. I've had many of these over the years. They always do very well, and they're arguably some of the nicest, in my opinion, some of the nicest modern Carreras that aren't just typical re-editions, you know, a reinterpretation, I would call it, of the original Carrera done to modern design and standards and all that sort of stuff. It's a really nice example. So let's take a closer look. Now on to the TAG Heuer Carrera. This is the Calibre 6 automatic three-hander with the sub-seconds and the dates down there at 6 o'clock. As I said in the intro, this is up there with one of my favorite modern Carreras that's not just another re-edition of a vintage Carrera. So those are my favorite because I love vintage Carreras. But again, you kind of just get a vintage one, right? Like that's where I'd usually go myself. But I feel like this is definitely a modern reinterpretation of the Carrera by using the case and the general design, but doing something a little bit different. And I think it looks really, really good. So props to TAG Heuer for this. You do have the vintage Heuer logo in red, which is really nice. You have the Heuer logo on the crown and the Heuer logo on the buckle. Now, I've got this technically the wrong way round because I do find it sits more comfortably on my wrist, and I've done this for a lot of customers over the years. And it can just be swapped back if you don't like it that way. You just take off the strap at each side and just flip it over, so nice and easy to do if you don't find that comfortable. The reference to this is WV5111.FC6350. This one's from May 2015. It was recently serviced with a private watch company, and that service paperwork is included in the box as well. And inside the automatic TAG Heuer Calibre 6. Behind that, really nicely plain polished decorated case back. It does come on its original strap with its original buckle, and again, a full polish can be done if you require or wish, at an additional price and time frame to delivery. Again, like usual, I don't recommend it. I think just wear the watch, enjoy it. It's in fantastic condition overall, to be honest, for a worn watch. Yes, you'll see some scratches here and there, but nothing major at all. So let's show this on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, it is 38.5mm by 46mm lug to lug, only 11.5mm thick and 19mm on the lug, so a little awkward, but WatchGecko has some fantastic choices, and a nice brown strap would also suit this perfectly if you want to swap it out from the black from time to time. But go check out this watch on the website today. Now on to something very affordable, very nicely proportioned, and just a great value for money piece. This is the Satina DS Action Diver Automatic Black 38mm. Let's take a closer look at that. Now on to the Satina DS Action Diver Powermatic 80 in 38mm. One of the best sizes for this model in my opinion. It looks fantastic. The bigger model is also great, but I just feel like this wears that bit better on the wrist. Kind of like the difference between the Black Bay and the Black Bay 58. Whilst there's lots of people who prefer the bigger one, that's completely fine. For most people, I think the 58 is a better fit. This is the same with this one compared to the normal. So I won't bore you with the reference to this one. You can see it on the website. Incredibly long reference as usual with these brands for whatever reason from the Swatch Group. But inside the automatic Powermatic Calibre 80611. You can see it behind that iconic Satina DS case back right there with all the inscriptions around the outside. It has a screw down crown, which is really nice. Obviously good water resistance as well. Date over at 3 o'clock, and those nice broad hands, which are incredibly legible. And the whole thing is pretty much brushed with a few polished parts here and there, but overall mostly brushed, which again I think goes with the design very, very nicely. It's from October 2019 with its box and paperwork. It also comes with a Satina NATO strap, which is unused, so you can switch and swap if you wish, but the bracelet is definitely the most comfortable in my opinion. You have a little bit of micro adjust on there, but not a huge amount, but you do also have half links, which is great, so well done Satina for offering that. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. A quick correction, April 2023. I think I said October 2019. I meant April 2023 with its box and paperwork, so still under its manufacturer warranty as well. So this is 38mm by 44.5mm lug to lug, 12.5mm thick and 20mm on the lugs. It's endless options, but I personally really like it on this bracelet. It's very comfortable and it looks fantastic. So go check it out on the website today. Now on to the Louis Vuittons. We're going to go on to the Louis Vuitton Speedy Duo Jet GMT on a bracelet. This is definitely a funky watch. These won't be for everyone, and that is completely fine. I think it's quite interesting to have something a bit different. You know, I've sold neo-vintage Gucci watches in the past as well. They've done very well. They're really great designs, and I think these are just something a little bit different. You know, again, at the price points, I think they're great. So let's take a closer look. So something a bit different and definitely not for everyone, and that is very much okay. So this is the Louis Vuitton Speedy Duojet GMT on a bracelet. Specifically, this is the reference Q2371, and inside is a quartz movement. It's from circa 2010s, and it doesn't come with any box or paperwork, and it will fit up to a 7-inch wrist. Now, again, we can have this refinished if you want it to, but I wouldn't bother personally. You've got this really interesting bracelet design which features both brushed and polished, and it's like a checkerboard pattern all the way through, which I think is very nice, and a deployment butterfly bracelet. Nice checkerboard pattern on the case back as well. And as we look at the dial, that's definitely the star of the show, this sort of baby blue color, which changes color depending on the lights. You have your local time in orange and your second time in GMT or in standard, or whichever way you want. Obviously, you can have whichever one set to how you want it. One has Roman numerals, one has normal, which I think is really cool. Louis Vuitton stated up there. I like it because of the design personally. I think it's just done very nicely. And something a bit different, right? Like if I'm gonna have a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci watch, I kind of want it to be representative of the brand in terms of design and being something a bit different. And I think this ticks the box. And Louis Vuitton are doing some very interesting things at the moment as well. But that's enough of the rambling. Let's show on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. So don't be put off by the proportions at 34mm, because it actually wears a hell of a lot bigger and it looks really, really funky and cool on wrist. So this is 34mm by 41.5mm lug to lug, only 9.5mm thick and 22mm at the lugs, going all the way around. So it's definitely a bracelet with a watch on it, which I think looks really, really great. So go check it out on the website today. And now on to a Louis Vuitton Tambour brown quartz 34mm. This one does come with its box and booklet as well, and it's paired on its original strap with a really nice brown dial. Great watch for him or for her, to be honest. At 34mm with these lugs, it actually wears a lot bigger than you'd think. So yeah, let's take a closer look. For this Louis Vuitton, this is a very interesting Louis Vuitton Tambour brown quartz 34mm, specifically the reference Q1311, and it is quartz, as I said. This one's circa 2018. It does come with a box and booklet, and it's in very nice condition, to be honest. You've got the original strap with buckle, which looks like it's hardly been used. You still have the sticker on the case back as well, and as we flip it over, you can see that gorgeous brown dial. Now, if I catch a certain way, you can see the anti-reflective coating. The anti-reflective coating does have some marks around the outside, which I tried to photograph in the additional photos, so be sure to check those out. And you have Louis Vuitton stated around the edge of the bezel, with these sort of, they're not hinged, but they kind of look like integrated hinged lugs, which I think is a really nice design. As I say, at 34mm, and when we show it on wrist, this will be perfectly fine for most guys out there, to be honest. But again, women as well, or anyone really for that matter, can wear this watch. So maybe a great gift for Christmas coming up, or something along those lines. But let's show it on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now, as someone who wears, 31, 32mm vintage watches from the 40s, this doesn't feel, awkward on my wrist at all, and it feels quite comfortable. But again, you be the judge of that for your own wrist. So this is 34mm by 42mm lug to lug, 10mm on the thickness and 18mm at the lugs. Right here, obviously, this point is a hell of a lot smaller, so you would need a custom-made strap to fit if you wanted to swap it out. But this strap has a lot of life left, and you can definitely enjoy it. It's barely been used, so go check it out on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls. This week's drop, definitely something for everyone at all kinds of price ranges, styles, eras, everything you could possibly imagine. So let me know down in the comments, what was your favorite from this week's drop? For me, it's not very easily, I like them all in their own ways, but for me it's the Speedmaster, just mainly because of that story and the privilege of being involved in something like that. It happens every now and again, and I've been fortunate to have acquired a few things like that from original owners that I've kept, and they're still in my personal collection now. But pieces like this is great, and to be able to then offer them for sale after getting them retail ready, it's really a great experience, and I can't wait to see the new owner's face when they buy this. If that's you watching, it's definitely worth every penny. It's so incredible. So let's leave it there. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Another 12 incredible pieces. I've already pretty much got it ready. There's something again for everyone at all price ranges. I'm trying to squeeze in a few more affordable pieces. With Christmas coming up, it's always a good time to have those sort of sub £1,000 pieces and sub £500 where I can as well. So I'm doing my best, but I appreciate it. And we'll see you all again next week. Take care.